The Lunaverse, Episode 18, by Grassic Clouds 2. Lunaverse, by Fable Double Dash. Symphony for Moon and Sun. Chapter 9. Cacophony. The headline read, Philharmonica gains surprise supporter in effort to play Forbidden Symphony, element of loyalty. Lyra had to read the article twice before realizing what it really said. There wasn't much there. Just a few lines about how she had enthusiastically promised her support, saying she would stand by her friend, whatever had happened, and if need be, against Luna herself. Lyra, who of course had not made any such promise, could only stare at the article in confusion. If this is a political move, I don't understand it. Are they trying to scare me? She laughed at the very idea. It would take more than gossip and rumors to keep Lyra Heartstrings from backing up a friend. Lyra got a few odd looks as she trotted over to the castle, but she made it inside without any difficulties and began the long climb to the tower. I should really talk to Octavia about moving her practice room somewhere lower down. Surely there's an empty room around here that's big enough. She smiled, picturing Octavia's reaction to her suggestion. What, Lyra? Do you think I'm weak? No, but I think a marathon climb to start the day is extreme, even for you, Tavi. She reached the tower door, unlocked it, and opened it, only for Octavia to leap in front of her. Her expression was uncharacteristically frantic. You must leave! Now! What? Asked the stunned Lyra. Go! Octavia was sweating. Something had spooked her. Even her normally smooth, silken mane was mussed and disheveled. You cannot stay in Canterlot even 1 hour longer. Leave now and take the 6:45 to Ponyville. I can't leave. Forget about practicing. Octavia gestured at a newspaper that was sitting just inside the room. Have you seen the headlines? They are tying you to me. Wait. You haven't left this room to go home or to a newspaper stand. I really don't think they deliver here. Lyra frowned. Some other pony left that. To scare you. Probably Greengrass. Who cares? I cannot tell if it's not a fake! Lyra, you need to leave before you are tarred by being associated with this performance! Octavia, I have no idea what that means. Who cares if the papers know if I'm helping you? Octavia grimaced and shut her eyes. Lyra frowned. Octavia only looked like that when she was struggling to control her temper. I cannot guarantee that Luna will lack my performance, and, given all the other attempts, I am still convinced that the odds are far against me. You are on record as supporting my efforts to play it, and has helping me to play. Therefore, if the princess dislikes it and orders me shunned, you too will be blacklisted as a matter of course. No venue will want to host a mayor who helped put on a performance so revolting to the princess. Luna isn't an idiot. She's not going to fall for this. What else will she do? She cannot publicly support you. That will look like she is biased in favor of the elements, and that will cause her serious political problems. And I seriously doubt she will avoid criticizing my performance for your sake. Friends of hers and heroes of Equestria have attempted this piece before, Lyra, and has not saved them. A friend of a friend has no immunity to her scorn. Okay, said Lyra, so now you're playing for both of us. When have you ever cared about pressure? It's not about pressure! Lyra, when it was only my life on the line, I consented to allow you to aid me. But now that helping me will almost certainly result in your ruination, I cannot allow you to continue. You have too much potential, and too much at stake to keep going on this path. That's my call, Tavi, not yours. Octavia, and it is my call. You have no official business in the castle. I could have you barred from this tower. Lyra stared. Octavia, this is insane. I am trying to save you! Then why won't you let me save you? Because you cannot, and the risk is too great! Octavia! Lyra was now glaring at her mentor. Look, if our positions were reversed, I know you wouldn't care about this. You helped me even if they threatened to throw you off Canterlot Bridge afterwards. So, if you do that for me, why the hell won't you let me do that for you? Because you are not deserving of that loyalty, Lyra, not I! Octavia couldn't place Lyra's expression. She hadn't seen it before. It was oddly vague, like Lyra was lost in thought. Eventually, the green mare began to speak again. Oh, I'm see. I'm worth concern. And you aren't. Exactly. I've been trying to tell you that. Because you screwed up. Yes. The two mares stared at each other for a few moments, before Lyra turned her head. Wow. Lyra, we are wasting time. The paparazzi! Octavia, shut up! Octavia blinked. Excuse me. Lyra had never spoken to her before like that. I said shut up. As in, stop talking. Lyra, this is... Lyra tried towards Octavia until she was directly in the Cells' face. What's wrong with you? Do you think you're the only mayor who made a mistake? Lyra yelled. If there is one bad decision made, it doesn't matter what happens to you. What do you think that means for the rest of us? I wasn't judging you. Why not? Lyra's face was incense from Octavia. I screwed up too, Tommy. I've had bad performances. I flaked. Sometimes I haven't always been there for my friends. Do you think it'd be okay if the Duke destroyed my life too? No, of course not. I just said... You just said that. And even though you've done so many amazing and incredible things, none of that matters because you screwed up one time. Lyra paused. If that makes you worthless, Octavia, what does it make me? I can't play as well as you. I haven't mentored anypony. What have I done that you haven't done better? You're an element. And I almost screwed that up too when I collapsed fighting monsters on the way to the old castle, she said. But you didn't answer me, Octavia. Answer? Lyra's voice was softer, but she still sounded hurt. If you, with all the incredible things you've done, are worthless, what does that make me? Octavia opened her mouth, then closed it, unsure of how to answer the question. Lyra, please. Lyra turned. Octavia, I need some time to think. I'll be back later. She hurried out. Wait! Octavia couldn't say why she wanted Lyra to stay, after having tried so hard to convince her to leave. But she suddenly felt like she desperately wanted Lyra to remain for a few more minutes. Lyra, stop! The door slammed behind her. Octavia sprang at it, but stopped herself from yanking it open. No, I won't. This is what I wanted. If we fight, and she leaves afterwards, then she might not perish if I cannot master this piece. This is good. This is... She couldn't finish the thought. Music. She had a symphony to learn. She wasn't ready. Burying herself in music. That would help. She hefted her cello, but perhaps a little more force than strictly necessary, and began to play. She tried. What followed was sound, perhaps even notes, but it could not honestly be called music. Octavia gamely struggled on, in one of the more torturous performances that the castle had known. But it was beyond her to try to pretend that she produced anything of value. When she finished the movement, she sank to the ground. So, that is how you treat your friends? Octavia sat in silence for upwards of a half hour. The only indication she had of time passing was the slow rising of the sun through the tower window, and the sounds of the city waking up. For once, though, she wished she didn't hear them. To sleep, or failing that, to be in a numb cocoon of silence and darkness. That was what Octavia wanted. I don't want to talk about it, she told the burglar. I'm not in the mood for conversation. You should have done that. For the first time, there was no warmth in the mayor's voice. It echoed around the room, almost mocking. That was depraved, Octavia. A cruelty worthy of the court, perhaps, but beneath you. I didn't want Greengrass to hurt her. It grieves me, of course. You think that she hates me, but better that than her remaining here and falling victim to the monster's schemes. He doesn't hurt her now. You've done a find that of your own. Her feelings, I grant, said Octavia, but her career, her life. The mayor's voice was suddenly directly in front of Octavia. Do you honestly think Lyra would want to have a career if she had to step over the bodies of her friends to get there? Is that the career you wanted? The mayor snorted. Why did you betray green grass again? If you care so little for your friends, if you'd rather have your concerts and applause, you could have stayed in his pocket. He rewards his allies, and you know that. He has given you a very nice position in a famous orchestra somewhere. We've been over this, Octavia hissed. Lyra was worth my sacrifice. I betrayed my closest friend. And now Z has too, thanks to you. Congratulations. Who has she betrayed? Demanded Octavia. Me? I ordered her to leave! Yes, you did. She'll think that now, and tomorrow, and maybe for a few more days. Probably until after you're done with the recital and truly beyond hip. The mayor's voice was, if anything, even more pointed now. And then they'll start to wonder, were you really responsible for your words? Wasn't you under more stress than any pony could bear alone? Wouldn't a true friend, a loyal friend, have put thee up with one more little outburst? Especially for the man who taught her half of what she knew. Wasn't she being petty when she walked out and left you to rot? Octavia said nothing. She didn't want to think about what the mayor was saying, but her thoughts were moving in that direction regardless. You know how you feel now, after what you did. You know what it feels like to betray a friend for the sake of your career. The mayor began to trot toward the window. Soon, Lyra will know it too. No, said Octavia. There was a hint of a plea in her voice. That cannot happen. Why not? Wouldn't that just honest? It would be very wrong, Octavia, for her to lie to herself. There would be no lie! No reasonable or rational pony would remain here in these circumstances! Circumstances? There may be other males would consider those, but the honest ones, like you and Lyra, no better. Circumstances are never an excuse, are they? Isn't that what you've been saying all these months? Ordinarily, yes, but no buts. The mayor began to climb out the window. Why does it matter that you threw her out? That you looked ready to cast the guards on her if she didn't leave? It was her responsibility to make the right choice. And she didn't. She failed a friend who needed her. Isn't her shame as great as yours? No, of course not, said Octavia. But she didn't know how to argue that point. All she could do was look away and wonder why all her rationalizations, all her carefully constructed arguments, suddenly seemed so flimsy. Well, if nothing else, I think you taught Lyra the importance of what you called honesty. I wonder how long it will be before she thinks she too is worthless, before she throws away everything for some other pony that she thinks matters more. No! The mayor glanced back. Octavia was on her hooves. The cellist shook her head. She can't do that. Not her. And she won't. She knows her worth. Her worth by your standards. The mayor's heart began to glow, and Octavia suddenly realized she very little knew indeed about her mysterious ally. How much is that? She is an excellent musician. She couldn't find it in herself to continue. Have you really thought how she measured up? If you judged her like you judged yourself, the mayor continued, approached Octavia, until they were inches apart. Do you want to see for yourself? What? Octavia gulped. For the first time since Corello's return, she felt afraid. Stand back! The mayor sprang forwards, testing her horn against Octavia's forehead. And then the sun was going down, but the cool evening breeze wasn't refreshing. It stank with the smell of garbage that hadn't been collected in several days. A muddy creek swirled past the old road. It was full of commercial waste, judging by the smell, and therefore heavily toxic. It was not an atmosphere conducive to, well, any sort of happy life. Oh, great, did the mega spells hit again? The building across from the creek was a honky-tonk saloon, one of the last of its kind. On the tottering walls and cracking roof, Octavia could tell at a glance, that this was an establishment by and for the desperate. Those who had nowhere else to go, and could drown their sorrows in cheap beer with cheap, meaningless diversions. Darts, pool, whatever trivialities they had out there. An old stallion stumbled out of the saloon as the door swung shut. Octavia had snatches of music. Despite her misgivings, she felt herself drawn inside. Lyra was performing. The music wasn't terrible. That was perhaps the worst part of it. Octavia could still hear the hints of brilliance, surely unappreciated by the drunkards and delinquents half slumped over the tables, but recognizable all the same. It was still a Lyra Heartstrings composition, though buried in deep, smulchy drinking music. Lyra was slouching over her lyre, strumming with one hoof while letting the others dangle idly. Octavia caught a glimpse of her eyes and froze. Lyra should have looked panicked at winding up in these circumstances, or scared, or even disgusted at falling so low. But she couldn't see any of that. Lyra looked resigned, like she had lowered her expectations to the point where her position felt acceptable. Lyra! Lyra! But she couldn't be heard over some raucous moron in the back, slamming his pool cue against his partner's head. The cellist ran forward, shoving patrons and a waitress out of her way. Lyra! She repeated. She jumped onto the little stage, accidentally put a hoof through the cheap wooden board, and tore it out and kept on going. Lyra! Lyra looked over with dead eyes. Tavi? What are you doing here? Thought you were in Chennai. Never mind. We're leaving now! Immediately! Lyra's expression was completely blank. Why? Why? Because I'm not going to allow you to languish in this wine-infested den for one moment longer! Lyra shrugged. Pays the bills. She strummed again, hitting. It had to be by accident. She wasn't nearly paying attention enough to do it deliberately. A pretty little 5-note sequence. That's enough. Not for you. You should be the talk of catalog by now! For Lyra did look a few years older. More worn, too. Not playing Gimrock for talking twos! The patrons too immersed in the liquor to remember it tomorrow! No. I couldn't play there. By now, some of the bar patrons were yelling for Octavia to get off the stage. There's no musicians in Canterlot these days. Loyal to each other. She smiled wistfully. They deserve those spots. I'm fine where I am. I mean, my choices put me here. Can't very well complain now. Octavia felt a tug. A unicorn, probably a bouncer, was striking her away with magic. Wait! Lyra! We should get gig air someday, said Lyra, turning back to her lyre. We could. She sighed. Talk about old times. Lyra! No! Lyra! No! 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 Lyra! Please! Lyra! Octavia realized she was back in the tower, and she was in a little ball on the floor. She looked up at the mayor. What did you do? The mayor shrugged. That is my talent, wisdom. Perhaps ponies to see what they've managed to blind themselves to. She stared at Octavia. That's what your Santa says she deserves. She and you. Not that! Not for her! Or... You know it's true, Octavia. Octavia shook her head. She does not deserve that! She made a mistake. I don't care! I don't care what she did. Lyra Heartstrings deserves more than that! Octavia yelled. She managed to get to her hopes. Lyra Heartstrings is a brilliant musician, a loyal friend, and... It's not me you need to convince, said the mayor. It's not me who thinks that. If you made one little mistake, it does not matter what happens to you. And Octavia was able to think. It was true in a sense. Lyra would be betraying her as she left now. She'd be leaving a friend in need. And that meant she deserved... No! She doesn't deserve that, repeated Octavia. Any standards that say she does are wrong. All the work she's done, All the good she's done matters. It cannot be obviated by something as trivial as being angry at a friend. Once, especially with half the court working against her, she brought joy to hundreds of ponies with her concerts. She worked tirelessly to do justice to her music. She saved the world and more. She deserves better than your perverse illusion. She paused. Doesn't the same apply to me? Then a stronger thought. Aren't all the good things I did worth something? Then she was seeing them, as if for the first time. The ponies that had smiled at her shows. The ones who had written her and told her she inspired them to go into classical music. The colleagues who she helped reach true greatness under her training. There was even one foal who had contacted her and said that she'd been so swept away by Octavia's cello sonatas that, when she arrived home that night, she realized she had gotten her cutie mark at that concert. A record disc. She was going to be a music critic, as she said, because she loved music, and it was Octavia who helped her to realize that. I did a horrible thing, but I don't deserve that saloon either, and I don't deserve to be blacklisted now! She had thought, for the longest time, if she allowed fault in herself, but not long before she gave in to all manner of vice. Once it was allowable to say, skip patches once, it would be easier the second time, and the third, until one was about lay about bum. But at this acknowledgement that her failure was, perhaps, forgivable, Octavia didn't feel a sudden urge for hedonistic and libertine depravity. She felt like a weight is off me. Maybe I can't escape the Symphony's curse, but at least now I know I should try. That is worth trying. All right, she managed, and bowed her head. I was wrong. Don't tell me. Find your friend, said the mayor. Her voice was no longer cruel, but it wasn't quite kind. Before it's too late. Before she decides that she's betrayed you, and is as worthless as... Octavia was already running for the door. She went down the stairs. She sped up until she was at a full-blown gallop. She had to find Lyra. Let us once again turn back the clock to 450 years post-Celestia, to the 27th attempt at this. Red Magician. You called? Red Mage, what are you doing on the show? We don't do 8-bit theater. I know, but you asked for a Red Magician. Okay, you could guest star, but let's focus, Sally. Righto. The instruments hovered on stage, soaring in intricate patterns that did nothing for the sound, but served to show off Red Mage's skill. And, as the violin somersaulted over the cellos and the piano wheeled itself around the timpani, the crowd roared its adulation. Magic had been Red Magician's talent ever since he'd been a little foal. Telekinesis in particular, using raw magical power to move and manipulate items in the world, had come to him as easy as breathing. By this point, as a young adult colt, he was said to have power unparalleled in the city, excepting only Luna herself. In terms of magical reserves, he would be able to wrestle with the guards themselves. And then there were his spells. Why, by this point, he probably knew more spells than half the Canterlot scholars. He only had to read them once, and they imprinted on his mind. And for this he was renowned, feared even. He was an integral part of Canterlot. His knowledge of magic had been called upon the guards to help keep out unusual threats or to solve crimes. He had been praised for his sheer ability, empowered by Luna herself. But that was only right and proper. Music had been the magician's hobby, not his job. But when he learned about the infamous Symphony, he thought it was too good an opportunity to pass up. After all, there were naysayers in the city, those who didn't think that his vast magical prowess was really all that impressive. He had to talk with one of those recently, an idiotic noble deep in her cups. Magic? What has that ever done? Sure, you can make illusions or mess stuff up, but y'all can't build anything. Yep. All y'all unicorns can only watch when we Earth buddies create stuff. Yep. It was nonsense, but it was such common nonsense that Magician felt obligated to stop it. What could he do, he wondered, to demonstrate that his superlative control of magic would make him the greatest at, Well, anything he put his mind to. Well, why not use that magic to play the music that he could not otherwise be played? Certainly, he wasn't really a musician. He never played in public. But he was a phenomenal magician. That meant he could do just about anything. That was what magic was, after all. The power to remake and reshape the world however you wanted. He had transcribed a piece for a large ensemble performance. The symphony would be played by multiple instruments for the first time in quite a while, and then retreated to seclusion to study the work. He saw it as just a big telekinesis puzzle, a test of using his magic to carefully manipulate a dozen instruments. Yes, it was difficult, but only in the way that remembering an intricate series of directions was difficult. He just had to practice enough to get it perfect. The other musicians might have needed decades to learn one instrument, but his immeasurable telekinetic power would make that quite necessary. A few weeks of practice of using the instruments, a few days to memorize the work, and he'd be ready to play. Luna would love it. The others had failed because, as good as they had been, they had inadequate tools. Solo performances of this piece were doomed. It was just too complicated to fit on one instrument. But Magician had the talent to use as many instruments as he wanted. It would be extraordinary. The instruments settled into an arrangement. The strings above Magician, the brass and wind instrument to his right, the piano rolling to a stop to his left. The Magician raised his front hooves, casting a small spell to ripple through his hair and make it look like he had just absorbed a blast of static electricity. Red Magician thanks you for your performance, and now, will astound and amaze you. Behold, his fast power, which will allow him to alone to play this piece correctly! Behold! Cried his fan cults and fan fillies from the audience. Luna looked cautioning. She sat on her booth at the top of the hall, watching the scene with her inscrutable eyes. She said nothing. But that was fine. Magician grinned, and his horn glowed. A bright, almost blinding teal hue. Bows began to move. Air began to blow through the brass and wind instruments. Piano hammers began to strike. The piece was beginning. Magician had called it a symphony for solo cult in his advertisements. He felt it was quite appropriate. The best part was the ending. The part he'd written himself. It described how Luna overpowered her sister. And how has he done this? Brute force? Sly cunning? No, of course not. She was Luna Equestria, the most powerful magician in the country. She had won thanks to her superior magical skill. Brute force was for infantry grunts, cunning for thieves and burglars. But it took an alicorn to overcome another alicorn with magical ability. And so, Luna's theme transitioned among the instruments, seeming almost, well, magical. It morphed and transformed, overpowering Celestia's, not in a straight-up bucking match, but a contest of skill. Celestia's theme just couldn't match the transformations that Luna did, and it let Luna's theme run circles around Celestia's. Luna captured the strings, the brass, the piano, easily deflecting any attack, and throwing many of her own. In the end, Celestia's theme shrank. It screamed pitifully, but what could it do? Celestia hadn't had anything like the magical muscle of her sister. That was self-evident. If Celestia had been more talented magically, she had won. But it was Luna that had been victorious. Her theme flared in triumph, and Celestia's was shifted into something unimportant and pathetic, something too weak to bother with. A mare now imprisoned forever in the sun, helpless to touch the world again. The ending was a glorious testament to magic, and the whole ensemble playing in a grand union that resounded through the wall. When the magician ended, he allowed himself a grin. Was that not the greatest performance in the world? Magician frowned slightly, watching Luna stand. My princess, he began, I would be honored to know your thoughts. My thoughts? Luna's smile was razor thin. That you are little more than a prospective sycophant. My sister had more magical power than me without the elements, Every pony knows this. Fools know that. Without the additional help of the elements, I would have lost the mats. Did you think I would be impressed by a lie? Is that what you think of your ruler? My princess, said Magician. After all I've done for this city, after all I still do, considering how absolutely indispensable I am, I would hope you would know that I am no liar. Being a good magician and a hero has nothing to do with the catastrophe that you just demonstrated, hissed Luna. Do you think that helping in the city's defense gives you the right to lie about me? Stick to your spells and defensive work, magician. Never again will I hear you perform. She vanished. Magician could only stare. Ah, well, I suppose one must allow the princess her little joke. Fillies and gentlecoats, this great work of Maestro's, this... But it wasn't working. Ponies were backing away from the stage. There were nervous whispers. Now see here, maybe you couldn't tell, but I was quite confident of Luna loving this piece. She might not be able to admit it such. You know the reputation of this work. But it was quite obvious how moved he was, and... It still didn't work. He reached out to one of his younger fans, but her mother yanked her back. You're not associating with him anymore! She cried. Then the audience was stampeding out the door, as if pursued by Luna's wrath. It was not what one would call a rousing success. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this chapter, and I would like to thank Red Maids from 8-Bit Theater for being a guest voice. No problem, martial art fruit user. It was my pleasure. Thank you. Join us next time, won't you?